My man. Good day, John Kim. We are going to be getting rolling, still getting set up. We got 1 minute. Bro, it has been glad you're here. Glad you got to make it. I know you're double doing first to class. Hey, there are two kinds of people. Those who get to class early and sit in the front row, and those who get to the class late sit way in the back. I like the people who show up early. I was always one of those. Being me, I always had to give every reason not to get cut, and it's an interesting kind of element as you look at it. That's your only objective as an undrafted person, as somebody trying to grind and make it. You got to show up early and provide no reason to be able to cut you. So that's a little bit about what we're going to talk about today in building trust. That's going to be the rookie to veteran principle. As you know, every day in December, we're going to be going live. We're going to hit up some financial knowledge. Got to get that financial knowledge, but we're also going to be talking about football tips, football thoughts, football stories. I got a great one for you. So if you were here yesterday, I would challenge you and ask you, drop in the comments, write something that brings you confidence, something that you said yesterday that you want to begin to bring confidence, and that is where you are going to establish that and be able to grow from and through that. I'm excited to send SZA drop the album from a winner from yesterday. Send him his cash money. He is also wanting to dive into a little bit more of Money Vehicle, being a personal finance student. So that was really cool. So I was excited to talk to him about that. But if you are the winner today, you're not only going to win a prize, you're going to win a follow from Fullback of Finance. And, we're just trying to share the message and try to get this thing going. So I said yesterday I was going to come with a good story. Here's a good football story to kick it off before we jump into day 2 of the financial challenge. I want everybody to wonder, how exactly am I connected to Tom Brady? Now, the GOAT, greatest of all time, dude's got 6 championships. I think we can all agree I'm prettier than him, so that's not it. He's got a good wife. I have a great wife, so I beat him there. But what our connection is, Tom Brady and I shared a statistical category for several years, and this is just like that story. People are like, oh, hey, I knew that guy at one time, and that guy probably has no idea. Tom Brady has no idea who I am, nor does he even give a darn about this record, even though he ended up winning. And it broke my heart, and it really bummed me out because I would have liked to beat him in something, but he ended up winning this one too. So how Tom Brady and I are connected between 2011 and 2014. So 11, 12, 13, and 14 seasons in the NFL. There were 2 players who were 100% on 3rd and 4th down conversions. So on 3rd and 4th down and 1, we would be all going for that first down conversion. And again, I'm talking about now our principle from yesterday is, the first part of the Be a Pro mindset is confidence. This is something that I became confident in. So for 18 straight 3rd and 4th down and short conversions, I got it. I converted. It was powerful. We had a little belly to the fullback, and one of my favorite moments, which a belly is just pretty much the quarterback would turn around and put the ball right where he was standing, and I would tuck under it, and I would have an option between the A gaps, between the guard, center, guard. It was a mesh, but the point was never going to be directly in front of you. It was a field play, so you had to take the ball, and at the same time, you were looking around, feeling it, and trying to snuggle up into the line. All you needed was 1 yard, but we all know that's the hardest yard to get. So I loved when I would get it, and I heard this every time because on 3rd and 1, you started to understand this play was coming. 4th and 1, we all knew, everybody in the stadium, they're going to run the belly. And I would convert it, and I would love to hear grown-ass men, big defensive linemen in the pile, amidst the little huddle pile, they would just go, oh, how did he get it again? We knew it was coming. How did he do it? But that's what I was confident in. I was confident if you handed me the ball, I could fall forward for a yard. And everybody's like, it's a yard. What were you so proud of? Because at the end of each season, they would come out with those statistics. And those statistics would say, Tama, Matisha, Skylar, they all went 7 of 9. SD Life, Tony, he went 4 of 6. And it would come out, it would say, Jed Collins, 7 of 7. Tom Brady, 7 of 7. And for 4 years, we tied. And then my fullbacks, what's good, Mr. Got to give that fullback love. But what I loved and what was the coolest, and then it ended up breaking my heart, was my very last play or my very last attempt in Detroit. I got stopped. I went 18 and 19. Tom doesn't ever get stopped, man. Dude doesn't lose. That's literally, I think that's on his tombstone. I don't lose. So that's my Tom Brady story. That's what I am confident in from yesterday. My guy, old man. Man, what are you guys doing? All right, so as you took it yesterday, what was I confident in? Yesterday, our financial principle, our rule, first thought of the day was, why do you care about money? You care about money because the pension system, how your parents and your grandparents retired and went away from into their freedom years, that system is going extinct. Even Social Security will not be as dependent as you wanted it to be. And so we have to sit in the driver's seat of our money vehicle. That is question and principle number 1, why you care about money. Today is day 2. Today we are going to talk about the golden rule of money. And we're going to go through the 3 ways most people break the golden rule. The winner of today is going to talk about exactly what the golden rule is, and they're going to begin to tag or know somebody who they can trust, because the second step we're going to talk about in the Be a Pro mindset, which is the first part of the Rookie to Veteran workshops. That second piece of Be a Pro, first one, I got to have confidence. Second one, you got to build trust. So as we get this going, drop the questions into the comments. We're here to talk. We're here to engage. Finance, football, ask me anything. Try to stump me. If I don't get to it right now, we will take a note and we will get to it tomorrow or in the future. Pete Butch the Coug, sitting reply. Sitting pretty. By the way, got to keep in. That's another Cougar first down. That's another Cougar first down. So you can see Butch right up here. That's my man Butch. So go Cougs down there. Today, as you learned yesterday, I'm a storyteller. I want people to understand this idea of money through stories. So getting them new J's like I did today breaks the rules. Hey, there are no rules. So what we're going to learn about in a few days is cash management. Money is supposed to bring you happiness, peace of mind, security. If it fits into your plan. I was just talking about, who was it? A player on the Charlotte Bobcats. I was on another show earlier today, and we were talking about how his plan is to spend 20%. He went out and bought $100,000 of jewelry and all that. If it's in your plan, if it fits into your system, I fully support it. If one of your goals has been those J's, more power to you. Go get those J's. So as you begin to understand, imagine yourself out in the middle of the forest. You're in a log cabin. If you've ever seen Life Below Zero, it's kind of like one of those elements where you got to go out into the wilderness and start chopping down wood. As you chop down this wood, you bring it back to your cabin. And in your cabin, you got a wood fire stove just sitting there, wood fire. And you realize you got to cut up this tree you just cut down and start throwing wood on the fire. As you throw the first couple pieces of wood onto that fire, you begin to ask yourself a simple question. Is my wood supply going to last through winter, or am I starting to run low? Because if Game of Thrones taught us anything, we know winter is coming. So I went out, I chopped down wood, I got my wood supply, and I've started to throw wood onto that fire. But that is the question I have to ask as I look at this wood supply. What does this have to do with money? Well, I'm glad you asked. The financial principle here is the golden rule of money. If you want a financial plan in a single sentence, here it is. Do not spend more than you make and focus on what you keep. Do not spend more than you make and focus on what you keep. So as you look at that, the wood fire analogy, what do I make? I make what I go out and I chop down. That is money I went and earned. I went and chopped down that tree. I brought it back to my home. And now I'm in my home, my cabin. And as I chop it up, I start to throw wood onto the fire. That is the money I am spending. Money I have chopped up and thrown onto the fire, it begins to burn. That is why we call that your burn rate. What is your monthly burn rate? That can be your financial action item today. Diagnosing exactly what your monthly burn rate is would be a phenomenal action item. We're going to define that more and more in days to come. So I know I went and chopped down my wood. That is what I make. I threw wood on the fire. That is what I spend. And then as I look at that wood supply, that is what I keep. So you see the financial golden rule in that little silly story about chopping down wood. So as you look at that, that is something you can begin to now discuss with your friends, with yourself in a mirror, with your community. What is the golden rule of money? How am I going to empower myself? I got to begin by making sure I'm not breaking that first rule. Do not spend more than you make and focus on what you keep. Why did pensions essentially go extinct? Great question from Poopy Buttcrack. If you think I am kidding, that is the username. Poopy Buttcrack 69420. Love it. So great question, Poopy Buttcrack. Reed, yeah, obviously I can still dunk, bro. I was all state in basketball too. Nah. So I was. My family's all basketball, so I can still dunk. Probably as the years get a little older, my calves are starting to tighten a little bit. You got to be able to adjust, but I was a pretty good basketball. I could hoop back in the day. My team won CIF. I was CIF Player of the Year on the basketball court. So interesting fun fact there. Both my brothers went and played Division I basketball. Don't spend more than you make and focus on what you have. Bam, old man, you stick around for about 10 more minutes, you're going to win the prize based on that answer alone. So why pensions went extinct, something we talked about real quick yesterday, was because corporations no longer wanted to have your future liability on their balance sheets. They said, how can we put your retirement in your hands and not in ours? Let's get rid of financial systems like pensions where we are held liable. Let's create the 401k, IRAs, and other systems like that where you are responsible. And so that is why you have to care about money. And we got to talk about this as we go. So as you look at it, make, spend, keep. We're going to talk about that keep a lot tomorrow. Tomorrow's all around goal setting. I got some great stories and analogies from there, but focusing on that keep is going to be a big one. I'm not trying to make it, I'm promoting here on TikTok. What advice do you have? Trying to make offloading ledgers. Trying to make it as a musician. What advice do I have? Number one, chase your passion. I love that. That's what I'm doing. Jumped out, trying to create it. Number two, dropping the messages. What type of music and what exactly are you? Are you the singer? Are you the single instrument? You have a band? What's going on there? But how do you make it? You got to promote every day, all day. I used to not like wearing stuff with my logo, my brand. I used to not like being about Jed Collins, like all that stuff. And what people started to understand is I am a walking billboard. Every day I am introducing people to who I am and understanding exactly where I want to go. I'm thinking about investing in index funds. What are your thoughts on these? Poopy butt crack? Brother, you stick around, man or woman. I don't know if it's a man or a woman. You stick around. Index funds is a topic we are going to be covering on another day. Right now, I'll just give you a thumbs up on the index funds. So how people begin to break this golden rule. We're looking at the wood analogy. The first mistake people make around the golden rule is they don't know how much they make. Do not spend more than you make. The first way people break the golden rule is because secure the bag. Is because they don't know how much they make. Most people, when they first start getting their paychecks, even in their 20s, 30s, they spend and they look at their make and they realize, I don't make everything I thought. They are introduced to the idea of gross to net income. That's a topic we're going to dive into later. What comes out between gross and net and why our United States tax code is progressive. But most people break that first golden rule. They live on what they thought they make, which is their gross. You really take home your net. So first mistake people make is spending on their gross, not on their net. Write that down. Make sure you are always attuned to your net. The second way people usually break the golden rule is, as we talked about burn rates, people do not understand what their burn rate even is. I think that is the action item today. Money Vehicles out to empower people, and you begin a conversation. One of the things I was so excited about yesterday, Money Honey, Rachel's back in the mix. Good to see you. Yo, was yesterday we had a personal finance student from the University of Wisconsin say, hey, you are changing the conversation around money. That is what we're really out to do. We want to make this idea of financial competency, financial empowerment, financial literacy, we want to make that the norm. That's the cool thing. It's not the nerdy kid. It's not the whatever that is doing this. It is the ones who really see future and really see their lives and take ownership of it. That becomes the social norm. And it's between you and your communities of why and how we're going to get there. So that is what I love about what I get to do now is we have ambassadors. We have one or two of the ambassadors on today that are here to support the mission and the message, because they're not 50-year-old ambassadors. They're 20-year-old ambassadors. There's 22-year-old ambassadors. Why? Because they know it is exactly what we need. So that way to people break it. Number two, they do not know how much they spend. They get to the end of the month and they say, money gone. What do I do now? So looking at today, if I could define one action item, it would be, how much did you spend this month? How much do you spend on a week-to-week basis? If you can give me that number later down the road, one single number can, as a wealth manager, which I used to be, one single number can tell me how much you should be investing, where your investment allocation should be, and how your freedom plan really is starting to play out. From one number, and that's your burn rate. If you think, and I give retirement workshops, I hate that word retirement now, but I give those kinds of workshops, and that conversation I have with people, got to get my, I don't know, go Cougs, get them back at you. If you don't know that single number, you have no business even looking at or beginning to approach walking into your freedom years. Why? Because your plan is broken from the start. So that is why we're starting. We're going to begin with some basic mindset principles. We're going to build throughout the month, build throughout the course around what exactly you need to go do. So that is what we want you to understand today. Today, the golden rule: do not spend more than you make and focus on your keep. That focus on keep, we're going to really touch on tomorrow around goal setting. One of my favorite topics is around rich goals. I have a good friend named Amobi Okugo. Go ahead and check him out on here. He's just getting started. Amobi is a professional soccer player. He's about 13-year professional soccer player. He runs a company called A Frugal Athlete. He and I have another show called Bank Shots together. Amobi was just announced as a Forbes 30 under 30 for the sporting world. I got to celebrate with that with him yesterday, and I was so excited for him. But what was most important about that story is Amobi showed me his journal. He showed me where he wrote down that this was going to be one of his goals. He wrote that down a year ago, and he heard about it this week. That should tell us what tomorrow is going to be about. Tomorrow is going to be about manifesting your future and manifesting exactly where you want to go. What college do you teach for? Flex and Patches. Flex and Patches? Hello. So what college do I teach for? I go back to my alumni virtually and teach at Washington State University a personal finance course. Kind of cool. I feel the idea of being an adjunct professor is added a different element. And it's just neat. It's kind of fun. But I always got to shout out Go Cougs. But the cool thing is our virtual course is now on about right under 30 college campuses. We're continuing to expand that, and it's getting into national clubs. We've had our first national fraternity sign up. We're in conversations with our second national fraternity as well as some other national clubs. So the Money Vehicle mission is about to go national, and it's really, really neat. But yeah, it's starting right now at Washington State. If you're interested, check out the bio. Now I want to shift gears for a moment, as I have about 5 minutes left, because I want to make sure to be very conscious of your times. Again, Ask questions. We got more and more questions about finances, football, what you need, even some mindset and motivation. Yesterday, we began to approach this topic around rookie to veteran, the principles I stole from NFL locker rooms, principles I stole from watching the best in the world. We decided the be a pro mindset was the first thing I saw in every locker room that I went in. And so that be a pro mindset began with confidence. We talked about confidence. The second one is trust. It was my first day in Philadelphia playing for the Eagles, and I was so excited. I mean, you got to imagine, this is your first. I walked up to my locker. There was a jersey and a helmet. Like I was psyched. One of the coolest things, and this is probably everywhere now, but one of the coolest things I remember about walking into the Eagles locker room was going up to the equipment. Jed, can I have the answer for Thursday's test? What up, Tristan? So Tristan's in my class. Booyah, go Cougs. And yes, you can have the answers. They're in all of your notes. So walking up to the Eagles equipment window, I thought this is so stupid, but so cool to me, is they had like 6 little drawers next to the window. So you're here talking to people, but those drawers each were filled with sticks of different kinds of gum. So every time you were in the locker room, you just got to try new little pieces of gum that, everybody always had like the Bubblicious, but then you had Big Red and Spearmint and all kinds of things. Those are the little things that I was like, hey, we didn't have these at Washington State. At Washington State, I had to pay for extra shoes and socks and stuff. So having free gum, just accessible, was like a little thing that I liked. But one of my first days in Philly, we went out on the field and the excitement was in me. I was ready to make the team. Little did I know I was a fullback, and you can't make the team in, March, back when they went to OTAs in March, in shirt and shorts. So I realized now I was a little bit too hyped up, but I was so excited. I was going to go hit people, even though you weren't allowed to hit. I lined up for that first play in my formation. The quarterback's going through his spiel, and boom, I take off before the ball snapped. Boom, whistle blows. I turn and I look to the sidelines. My replacement, the other undrafted fullback, starts sprinting off the sideline. Big smile, like, let's go. Why? Because he just stole a rep from me. He just entered onto the field, and he knew that I had just messed up. I had just inflicted something on myself, and that he was going to take this rep and earn more for tomorrow. As an undrafted free agent, you didn't get many reps, and if you messed up, the next day you got one less. You didn't get that rep again. So as he came in, I went and stood on the sideline, but, buckled up, still just depressed, sad, in my head, beating myself up. And our head coach, Andy Reid, who's a big Mamba Jamba. He's lost some weight now, but back then he was. Great story about Andy Reid is I heard he would eat 10 cheeseburgers before a home game, like in the hotel. Like that's an incredible feat. So Andy Reid walks by me, looks at me, and says, son. Again, I was an undrafted free agent. This was day 1, day 2. He probably didn't know my name, so he called me son. I learned, and you're going to learn here as we progress, people have to earn your name. People have to learn your name for a reason. They don't just learn it because you're there. He said, son, we can't beat ourselves out there. Now, Super Bowl winning head coach, those were his first words to me. Son, we can't beat ourselves out there. And he kept walking. As he walked away, I began to think. I really began to try to understand. What was he trying to tell me? That night, I'm a big journaler. If you can see, I got journals for days. This is something that if you want to take one skill away from me, something from you want to steal from me, start to write down your thoughts. Thoughts become things. Great book called Think and Grow Rich. We'll talk about that more later. But son, we can't beat ourselves out there. And he walked away. What he was telling me in that moment, in one sentence, he was telling me that he is the head coach, the assistant coaches, the rest of the team, the entire organization needed to be able to trust who I was out on the field. They needed to trust that I was going to help the team, not hurt the team. They needed to trust that who Collins' son was going to be every day showing up was going to be the same guy, and they needed to trust that it was going to be somebody who they wanted to put out on that field. Stephen Covey wrote a book called The Speed of Trust. Great book, great read. I've actually been given it by multiple, that means 3+ CEOs and founders of companies and businesses as one of their cultural perspectives. But in the speed of trust, Stephen Covey compares the concept of trust to a tax or a dividend. A trust tax means I am taking away. A trust dividend means I am adding. Tax and dividends are concepts we'll talk about on another day, but that notion, as you look around, as you see your circle, as you see your relationships, you can measure everybody you know. Everybody you know has either a trust tax or a trust dividend. I would challenge you. You can tag somebody in the comments. You can tag one of your friends. If you trust them, tell them. Send them a text message. Just send them a note and says, I trust you. If nobody's coming to mind, here's one of the greatest examples and one of the worst examples to answer this question. It's a very simple one. If you had to hide a body, who are you calling? That's the person you have a trust dividend with. That's the person that you can trust. So as you look at your principles today, yesterday, you needed to understand what you were confident in. Today, you need to see in your circle who you trust. When you look at money, there is a term called fiduciary that will empower you to trust the person you are entrusting with your money even more. Drop it in the comments if you want to understand what the word fiduciary means. But that is what we are going to finish on today, is this concept of trust. Can you trust someone? Can they trust you? What about those relationships has they built that trust within you? And begin to identify it through that lens. I'm going to end on a 60-second question I got asked last night on TikTok that I responded to is, do offensive linemen actually know wide receiver routes? Do offensive linemen know the route tree? Do they know what's going on down the field? Well, the answer to the question, and I appreciate it, and this is no disrespect to my O-line brothers. Remember, I was a fullback, so I was in the stepchild of the family. Offensive line has an extremely difficult job. They are the only people I know of that play a sport without looking at the ball. Their back is to the ball the entire time. That's a tough thing to get comfortable with and used to. Not only that, then they have grown human beings coming and yelling and fighting them. So as a wide receiver forgets a route, what do they do? If a wide receiver forgets a route, they just go to the sideline and realize they don't get to go back out on the field. I honestly, at that level in college, especially in the NFL, you never forget your routes. You know, you might make a mistake on like a zone coverage if it has an option to it, and you might go the wrong way or make the wrong read. But if you don't know where to line up and what you're doing, you don't belong out on the field. And we don't have time and we don't have excuses for anybody who says that. So we have a response to that. Oh, absolutely. We have a response to that. It's be a pro. Be a pro. That's that mindset we're talking about today, that confidence, that trust. Why must the color line on the outside sock fail mid-calf in the NFL? Because the NFL, and this is, it's interesting. So Tyreek Hill also has an interesting element to this. So why does everybody need to look the same in the NFL? Is because the NFL is a billion-dollar global company, and they believe the shield, and rightfully so, they believe the shield is more important than any individual out on the field. And so anybody who looks different, they believe is trying to put themselves and their brand ahead of the shield and the NFL logo. So when you look at something as simple as the socks, they want them to all look the same because they want the attention to be on the game and on the NFL, not on you and not on your socks. If your socks are wrong in the locker room before the game, they actually have a referee come in and say, hey, JJ 1515, you're going to get fined for those socks. You know that. And you would be amazed at how many dudes go, yup, JJ 15, get out of here. Some guys don't wear the color line socks, though. Are they fined every week? So you don't have to wear the specific sock, but you have to spat or tape to make it look like you're wearing those socks. If they are wearing a different look, then yes, they are probably getting fined. Now, it has started to loosen in the last year or two. You see the celebrations change. You see some of those cool shoes and things. The NFL is realizing they need to hype up the personalities and the individuals. But the truth is, Anytime somebody wears something different, why I brought up Kansas City Chiefs Tyreek is he would give out the peace sign. And every time he did this, he would get a fine. Why? Because that was promoting his brand, his emblem. It was interesting because a day or two ago, they just announced that his custom gloves, he is now partnering with and becoming a part of the company. His custom gloves that he can hold his hand out like this now, and all that is blacked out are his deuce signs. So he can no longer get fined, but still throw up his logo. That is the modern day athlete. That is what is so cool. Thank you for answering very niche questions. That's what we're here to do. I mean, this is fun. I mean, this is the easy stuff. I miss human beings. I'm in this room by myself all day, every day. This is the most conversation I've had all day. That's not true. I do, but anyway, I appreciate the questions. Keep them coming. It makes it a little more lively, more fun. And that's what we're here to do, is add value to you. So he's able to now throw up his personal brand, build his platform, show his logo, all the while saving money and not getting fined. So that's an interesting one. How does a coach handle internal team conflicts? This is going to be the last question today, and that's a great question. Appreciate who's that? Papity. So internal conflicts, a few elements based on the coach. So there are disciplinarians as coaches, and there are player coaches. Player coaches handle it by bringing a guy into their office and, kicking the feet up on the desk and talking through it. I got to play for a guy named Romeo Crennel. Romeo was a player's coach. Everybody loved Romeo. You had a problem, you went and saw Romeo, you sat and talked about it. Then there were other coaches who were more disciplinarians. You look at like a Bill Belichick. That dude doesn't have like a leniency policy. You broke the rules, you're gone. And so it differs based on coach by coach. But what you also got to realize is in the NFL, this is livelihood. And so it's going to depict based on who that player was. What did they do? Sure. But how much rope do they actually have? If they have a longer rope, and because they are a much more talented person, then how you handle it is going to be very different than if the undrafted free agent fullback commits that kind of correction and error. It's a cool, hard truth of the world we live in, but the more talent, the more rope you get, the more chances you get. So coaches handled it in a variety of different ways. Last question, but I wanted to ask if teams actually have the mentality of... you're the man. Man, I love that. Lifelong Saints fan here. Who dat? Love watching you every Sunday. Tanking for a player. Do the teams have the mentality of tanking for a player? Not even close. Not even an ounce. Why? Because I don't give a damn if you get the number 1 overall pick next year. I don't know if I'm going to be here next year. I have to go out and perform and do my job each and every play, because the only currency I have is my film. And so people who think, oh, this team's tanking to get a guy, you've never been in an NFL locker room. I finished my first 2 years in Cleveland for the Browns, and both years we were 2-11, 3-12 at the end of the year. And that week 17 game was the Super Bowl for us. And we looked at it, and the coaches said it, you are all playing for your jobs. You're playing for your jobs. So no, nobody tanks. Nobody does all that. You can see as an organization, maybe you can trade and make some moves like that to build it out and say, I'm cool if we don't have the best players this year. But on the field, you can't play football, not going 100%. That's how you get hurt. And so, no, I firmly believe up until week 17, even if a team is 0-15, they're out there trying to avoid humiliation of going 0-16. How do you get an agent when you're trying to get into the NFL? So playing in college, agents start sniffing around. Some of the bigger agencies go to the bigger colleges and bigger schools and things like that. But hey, great question. Honestly, I like that tanking question. That's a good one because that gets thrown around. Let's answer the agent question tomorrow. Let's finish up. So first person in the comments who can tell me the golden rule and who can tag one person that they trust is going to be the winner of the game today, and the prize. We are going to answer the agent question tomorrow because we're here every day live in December. Come join us. Football, finance, ask me anything. Try to stump me. Do not spend more than you make. Bam. Focus on my man John Kim. Couldn't be better. Daniel, you got a close second, but you didn't get the second part. You didn't get it. So, John Kim, and you better believe we talked about this as we started going. John Kim was the first one in, first to class, front row, first one to answer the question. That's respect. That's the kind of player I was, kind of student I was. The Andy Reid story was not the beginning, but it was a good story, I hope. If you thought it was a good story, you can give me a little thumbs up. Save 3 months of expenses. That's emergency fund. I call it now, and you will always remember this, the Corona cushion. We got to change the verbiage. I don't use retirement. I talk about freedom. I don't use budget. I talk about cash management. I don't say emergency fund. I talk about a Corona cushion. You change the verbiage, you will change people's lives. I commented on your recent about techniques. Can you answer that tomorrow? Absolutely. So who is that? Flisk? Flisk, you tell me exactly what you want to know about techniques. Would love to start reading your book soon. Thank you. John Kim, you tell me. I'm going to follow you. I'll message you. But what if we send you a signed copy of the book as the prize for today? It's $25. So you actually are going to be making $5 in that exchange. Plus that shipping and handling. You know, that ain't free. But I'll be messaging you, brother. I appreciate it. All of y'all, thank you for tuning in. December dollars. We're going to give cash away tomorrow. And just keep on rolling. Football, finance, it is what it is. Fullback of finance. Tell one of your friends. Tell somebody to come and join us. Enjoy the day. Deuces. Damn, I came in late. Y'all are cool, man. This is fun. Thank you. Boom, boom. 7 p.m. tomorrow.